Buon pomeriggio a tutti, grazie per essere qui con noi. Good afternoon to everybody, thanks to be with us here in Bari to Medimex. This panel is called ASSOMUSICA and Friends for European Live Music Network. I go in Italian, you don't mind? No problem. Almeno l'introduzione la faccio nella nostra lingua madre in maniera che resti un ricordo della nostra lingua. Questo appuntamento per noi di ASSOMUSICA e per il sottoscritto riveste una importanza fondamentale nel percorso che ASSOMUSICA sta facendo da qualche anno e non solo nel percorso di un'associazione ma anche nel percorso, nella affermazione di una che è la più importante forma di espressione culturale, espressione culturale che più riesce a dare emozioni, la musica dal vivo, che è stata fin troppo bistrattata nel suo essere. Pertanto diciamo si stanno costruendo, e oggi per me, per noi che siamo qui, è una giornata fondamentale, perché forse per la prima volta ci si è seduti intorno a un tavolo, realtà completamente differenti tra di loro, soggetti che lavorano nello stesso settore ma che non si incontravano, non comunicavano, e finalmente, grazie anche a questa occasione offerta dal Medimex, c'è molta confusione, grazie anche all'opportunità offerta dal Medimex, è riuscita a trovare un momento di confronto, di incontro e direi anche di elaborazione propositiva. È indubbio che tutto questo forse non sarebbe successo se ad alimentare l'anima, ad alimentare l'entusiasmo di quanti siedono intorno a questo tavolo non ci fosse stata la direzione cultura della Comunità Europea. La realtà europea per molti dei nostri paesi è una realtà molto lontana, però a volte probabilmente è più vicina di quanto non lo siano le nostre nazioni, i nostri paesi. Questo è uno di quei casi. C'è il caso in cui la Comunità Europea, attraverso le sue strutture, ritiene che il nostro lavoro, che la musica dal vivo ha un'importanza fondamentale in tutta Europa e necessita quindi di appropriati provvedimenti legislativi e non solo, ma anche di adeguati finanziamenti che possano consentire lo sviluppo della creatività, possano consentire alle nuove generazioni di avere un futuro in uno dei settori che sentono più loro, che sentono più vicini al loro essere, e quindi questo per noi è fondamentale. Credo che potremmo, scherzando, abbiamo parlato di manifesto di Bari nel nostro incontro, ma in qualche modo diciamo this is a milestone, abbiamo posto una prima pietra che io mi auguro e sono certo che avrà un futuro con o senza i partecipanti a questo tavolo, perché l'età ci dice anche che dobbiamo lasciare spazio alle nuove generazioni. Quindi io non mi intrattenerei oltre, forse sono andato già, Manfred, when you want you stop me, oltre quello che mi ero prefissato di dire, ma sentivo e spero di essere riuscito a trasmettere tutto il mio entusiasmo, tutta la mia emozione e il piacere di essere qui con tanti amici, perché il lavoro, le cose si fanno se si creano anche dei rapporti interpersonali, se si crea anche la conoscenza reciproca, e questo vuol dire lo scambio delle differenti culture, lo scambio dei differenti punti di vista, senza mai però cercare la contrapposizione, ma cercare l'unione. Grazie a tutti e buon proseguimento. Passerei la parola per una prima introduzione al dottor Senesi, in rappresentanza della Digicultura della Comunità Europea, che probabilmente avrà più capacità di me di sintetizzare quelli che sono eventuali scenari futuri.
Grazie Presidente. If you don't mind, I would just continue in English. By the way, our Director General is also in charge of multilingualism, so I think it would be a good opportunity to pursue our discussions in English and Italian, of course. I would like to thank you very much, not only for the invitation, but for your introductory words, because I think you said already in the essential. And the reason why we are here is mainly to start a new process. I would like to give some elements, or try to give some elements of the process in the next couple of minutes. But as you said, I think it's also a very good opportunity that we have for the first time people from the music sector from different countries, from different European countries, sitting at the same table. And this is a very good signal. I think it's really a start of the process, as I said, which does not mean that Europe and music are two separate entities. On the contrary, we will see that we can build on what we have already been doing on that. But there are different conditions, there are different elements that suggest new undertakings, new ways of cooperating between the European Commission and the world of music. So the first thing I would like to say is that from a European perspective, music business is very interesting, not only from a personal perspective, but really from a multiple perspective. But it's very complicated. So it's interesting because it's not only fulfilling for each of us as individuals, but has a lot of positive implications and benefits for our economy, society, cultural diversity, and many other respects. And not all these aspects have been really sufficiently well highlighted so far. So I think this is also one of our responsibility to really make sure that not only people here in this room or all friends that are following us through the streaming are aware of that, but even people who are not really involved in the music business. So there are many reasons why we believe that this business is interesting, but at the same time it's very complicated. There are many actors. It's a business in which we have small and medium enterprises, and they're really the backbone of what we are doing. But we also have majors. So already it's a very diverse sector. Secondly, it's also diverse geographically, because I mean the situation that we have here in Italy is probably not the same as in other countries. And for us in Europe, it's really challenging to understand the situation in 28 member states before being able to do something more. So it's interesting, it's challenging, and it's very fast changing. This is a third challenge of the music business. What was good and what was a common practice no longer than 3 years ago is now old stuff. So really have to make sure we understand the changes in the business, in the sector, and that's why we are enhancing our, let's say, cooperation efforts with people and professionals from the sector. It's obvious to say that music is a crucial component of our life. I mean, as I said, for all of us as individuals, it's obvious. But then when we dig a little bit into figures and some, more precise and concrete elements, we see that, for example, just to keep the figures right, 9 in 10 of the most watched videos on YouTube are music videos, for example. So, you know, music has a lot of interrelations with other sectors, and has a huge presence in our everyday life and in our economic life. I don't really have figures or updated figures at European level, but worldwide, I mean, the sector is one of the strongest, and it has also proved to be very resilient as it comes to the economic crisis that has hit very hard Europe, but not only Europe, over the last few years. So there is also an economic element in that, which is very, very interesting. And also the interaction between operators here in Europe and worldwide is interesting, because, for example, we now, at least for those who are really up to date in the world of music, know that all these platforms that we currently use, or that we use more and more, like Deezer, Spotify, and so on, are actually European innovations. So Europe has a lot to say. European professionals have a lot to say in the world of music. But Europe, as an institution, the European Union, the European Commission in particular, would like to know how we can support this business and this work in the future. So, we said at the beginning, we are not starting from scratch. We have supported music so far. We will keep supporting music so far. We have tried to help further circulation of talent, for example, in the field of music. We have a program which is called Creative Europe, which supports cultural and creative sectors in general. And within that program, we also support very significant initiatives and programs and projects in the field of music. We have, I mean, also friends around the table can testify. We have supported programs and projects that have involved a lot of musicians, artists in the field of music, and have helped them circulate, or their works circulate a bit more in Europe. But still, since the business is changing and the world of music is changing, we would like to strengthen our discussions with the sector and see what the sector looks like today and how it will look like in the future. And on that basis, we can see what Europe can do for that. So we already had some preliminary discussions over the last few days and this morning, and we all agree, I think, if I can start from a, let's say, an essential point, that the sector is very diverse from one country to another, and for us it's difficult to restart a new policy for the sector as long as we don't have kind of mapping, or at least homogeneous data about the sector. So who are the players? What is their role? What is their weight? What is their economic impact? And what this impact will be exactly in the years to come. So this is why we are here today. We've been present in many music events over the last few months. I mean, not only for our own pleasure. I mean, there's music going on. So I mean, this really gives you a flavor of where we are. But also because we would like to start a more structured dialogue with the sector, and it's on exactly the points that I tried to summarize. So what the sector, or the sectors, the music sectors look like nowadays, and what is the vision that you as cultural and music professionals have of the sector for the years to come. As far as we are concerned, we're of course committed to supporting the sector, but to do more. But in order to do so, we would like to know what are the needs of the sector, what those needs will be in a few years' time, and that's why we are here today, and that's why we are launching this more structured dialogue. So I think we can just start from here, if it's a kind of consensual point, and then all our interlocutors will probably add a more detailed element, or more detailed elements of what they think about the business, what they think about the challenges of the sectors in the near future. Thank you.
give this man a warm applause. He really needs it and deserves it. Hello, my name is Manfred Haring. I'm a journalist for trade publications within the music sector. And I'm here. Thanks very much to Vincenzo for being here. And as we just mentioned, we had this morning first workshop going on where we was discussing how to proceed and what's going to be on the agenda next. There will be one more meeting in Brussels in the middle of December, where for the very first time many people from the various associations from the music sectors will come together and will exchange ideas and information. Let me say something towards the meeting we had earlier on today. It's from my point of view, and as I mentioned it before, it is the first meeting where there is so many various people from Northern and Southern Europe. And I'm in the music industry for more than 25 years now, and I never saw that before. So thanks very much therefore that we had the opportunity to experience this. It's very interesting. And let me ask you one question. Whom of you ever dealt with Creative Europe or with the European Commission? Did you? Anybody of you ever filed an application? 2? There's more room for you. I guess pretty soon in the future you will have more opportunities to successfully hand in your applications. One of the objectives we discussed earlier this morning was the promotion of young music and talents and artists in Europe, basically to set artist circulation. I quickly would like to hand over to Peter on this moment, because Peter is running the Eurosonic conference, Eurosonic Noorderslag in Groningen in the north of Holland, and he's among others one of the founders of ETA, which is, from my point of view, the most successful talent support program we have already with the subsidy by the European Union going on. Peter, may you please explain on the subject of circulation of European talents?
Yes, thank you, and thanks for ASSOMUSIC for this very good initiative. What I think in Europe we see, and that's not only in Europe but everywhere in the world, there is an enormous increase of the use of music, which is very positive. People use music more and more. But which music are they using? In Europe, Europe is a fragmented market where there's very little circulation of European repertoire. I am sure that here in the venue there's not that many people who can name like 10 artists from Poland or the successful artist from the Czech Republic. And I think that is strange. And it's bad. It's strange out of a cultural viewpoint that we have the same currency but have no clue what songs our neighbors and fellow Europeans are singing. And it's bad in an economical sense because we do not benefit from the full potential of Europe as a market. And I think it's of vital importance that the share of EU repertoire used in Europe is increasing, and hereby artists can benefit for getting bigger audiences, making a better living, and hereby creating a lot of jobs in the whole sector. The music sector is a very strong and good creative industry, and in Europe we should work united in creating more opportunities and create this market in Europe for European repertoire, because Europe is one of the biggest markets, but a lot of talents from the individual countries don't have access to these markets. And that is something where we as a music sector should be working for, individual member states should be working for us, and we really need the Commission to help on this subject. And that is one of the items that were discussed, and with the fact that that these discussions are happening now, I'm very positive that we can in the future have a broader program to create artist careers and jobs for European music in Europe.
Peter, what was your impression gained out of this morning workshop in terms of, did we cover the aspect of circulation of artists accordingly?
I think one of the, we divided several points, and one of the points was to help young careers of young artists. And the main thing about helping careers is giving artists a wider audience. And a wider audience is very often outside the borders of your own territory. Once, if you imagine that European artists have access to the whole of Europe, we have a bigger music industry in Europe than there is in the US. And that is a potential that is in fact possible, but we only have to do it and make sure these borders and problems in circulation are disappearing, and then it means better opportunities and again more careers, jobs and money for everyone in Europe in the music business. This is a healthy business.
Well, do you agree? Fred? Is it a healthy business for UK artists to circulate around Europe?
Well, I kind of work in come from the UK, so obviously, we probably have a higher proportion of acts that tour internationally or tour in Europe than maybe some of the European countries. But I mean, from my perception, I think the notion of where a band is from is becoming less and less important than it ever has been. And actually, I think really, especially what we're talking about today, is meeting earlier, is that if we can actually put in place better frameworks to allow that circulation of European talent, then it doesn't really become about where that band's from anymore. It becomes about how good that band is. And actually, if you're creating a platform or creating kind of avenues for European artists from throughout the EU to be able to tour through borders and across borders, and actually just present something that's really good that improves people's lives and people enjoy listening to in other countries, then I think that's an initiative that should be warmly welcomed, and something that I think we're fairly committed to working towards.
Well, one of the main aspects we also discussed early on was, of course, what kind of data is available, and also to provide as accurate information to the people from the European Commission. Within our group of this morning, it was especially George from Greece, who was explaining about mapping and assembling of data. And please explain to the people what the results have been.
Hello everyone. Thank you again also. Thank you, Mr. Stella, and thank you everyone in Bari for this wonderful ecosystem of music fair. That's the ecosystem. It's a trendy word. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I don't know if some of you have ever thought about what the music sector means, because that's another key issue we realized during these conversations. We were focusing on the live music sector, which is the most famous aspect of music, but actually live music sector is the top of the chain of an industry which indeed, as people were saying, as Greg was saying, we don't even know actually how big it is at European level. I will just give you a very quick insight, because that's something we're trying to do. Do you know how many millions of Europeans are going to a concert every year? Anyone of you? So the last estimate, the smallest one, is 175 millions of Europeans are going at least once a year in a concert. That's from Eurostat. Another thing is that at least 40 millions of Europeans are traveling abroad to go and meet other artists in other countries. So there is a kind of good start of mobility from Europeans through culture and through music to go abroad. But then, and this was a very nice topic that Mr. Spera, Mr. President, spoke about this morning, because we are in a time in all the sectors and not only in the cultural sector, where cohesion is needed, social cohesion, above all. And while thinking about the force that we represent, because we're at the top of the chain, no matter if we're small countries or big countries, when you are in the live music sector, you are at the top of the chain of the music industry, okay? Well, if we don't care about education, if we don't care about what's going on next to us, we will not be able to be sustainable and to organize this sector as a professional sector, because numbers and turnovers do matter if we want to have the support of the European Union. So I'll show you in quick, and I will ask our partner here to connect the laptop, please. I will show you quickly one small mind mapping we did a few months ago, just to realize more or less when we say music sector. Please don't take it as an academic presentation, okay? But it's a quick presentation that represents how many professions are connected to the live music sector. Is it working? 1, 2, 1, stop. Do I have to do something? Well, the idea was to try and show quickly and with fun how many professions are connected to the first person who plays with an instrument or with his voice and does a sound, okay? So we called it a music cluster and said that the first thing you have to do is to learn, okay? It's about education. So you learn an instrument, you learn solfege, whatever. So from education you go to different sectors of education. Sorry, my view is going bad and I cannot even see the thing here, it's better for me. So you have the educational sector, which brings you to, you know, formal education. Sorry, it's working. Yes, it's working. Can everybody sees the screen? Conservatories, music schools, etc., etc. You have the vocational and educational and training center, which brings us to some professions. And when you go at the top of the professions, let me put it as it fits. Well, we counted just for the fun. You have all the artists, you have the management, you have the related partners, which, for example, related partners are record companies, small and medium-sized enterprises. You have live event companies, you have suppliers, manufacturers, all those connected to the internet and the e-commerce promotion, etc., etc. Marketing, design, etc., etc. Just for the fun, we counted something like 160 professions related to the core fact that somebody's playing music, and then we don't know how many millions of Europeans, but indeed a lot of persons are working together so that this sound can be used, and brought to our ears. So,
could it be that it is sort of sexual definition? You know, figures, data, and clusters?
Well, what we have as a moment, well, you know, we were discussing about this. We officially know that we don't know anything. That's the funny part. Officially, let's say, taken from the 200 top festivals of Europe and main tours of Europe, it's about 300 to 350 million tickets sold per year, which represents more or less, including sometimes classical music, rarely opera, etc. It's around 3.5 billion euros a year of turnover from this sector, with ancillaries and merchandising. What we know for sure is that, for example, what's going on through the Medimex is not counted in there because there's another option. You know, the Festa della Musica, you know, the Bianchi, you know, all the non-for-profit organizations which reunites millions of spectators in Europe. They're not taken into account. So it's very difficult. What we know is that also, if you put together live and recorded industry, it's around 60 billion euros a year altogether. But yet again, it does not include the university's turnover, the conservatories turnover, etc. I'll stop here with numbers. I think the point is that indeed we are also a real tool, and except for the numbers, because we'll believe we only think about numbers, but if we understand the numbers, we can support the music sector. We might be more than the agricultural sector. I'm saying this laughing very often, but I mean, think about it. How many of you have a kid and a piano teacher at home? Is it? Because in Greece, in Italy, in France, it's black. How many DJs in Europe? Every night we consider that there are 1 million bars playing music. Every night. Every night. Imagine this by 7, by a month, by I made my own with numbers, huh?
Yeah, that's fine. Vincenzo, what's about DJs?
Yes, so if you,
Yeah, please, President.
thank you very much to George for his fireworks. He doesn't expect to have fireworks, otherwise we call the police with water. As usual in every concert, the leader of the band presents the band in the end of the show, but I have to do it before with our friends that I invite to speak from the seat or wherever they want, because the space is this one. And I want to call all people it's here. It's Audrey, girl from Live DNA French, François Jolivet, Fedelina, board member, France, Attilio Perissinotti, Network Europe board, Poland, Aline René from Strategic Consular and Institutional Relations from Prodis, France, that unfortunately had to fly back to France. Even Malika Seguineo, the director of Prodis, and again with Nuno Saraiva from Amai, Portugal, Peter Schmidt that you already saw on my left side, Manfred that became my brother from last month, and the mayor of the city of Groningen that is with us even today, Mr. Chris Garrett. So before introduce and let give you the microphone, I want to introduce Mr. Sinisi, Nicola Sinisi, who is the director of Rai Radio Rai, and unfortunately we met after maybe 40 years. We know each other 40 years ago because he started to do promoter as us, and now he works in the media, and it is one of the best person who can understand our job and maybe can give to us some way to find out a new proposal even from the communication. Thank you.
Buonasera a tutti e grazie davvero a Medimex che ha fornito l'occasione, ad ASSOMUSICA perché credo che abbia svolto un ruolo costante e che solo la testardaggine che gli è rimasta, devo dire, di Vincenzo Spera ha portato a mettere assieme tante esperienze diverse. Tante esperienze diverse che arrivano da tanti paesi diversi che vogliono essere Europa. Ho detto vogliono essere Europa perché mai questo concetto Europa è stato tanto in discussione come in questi ultimi mesi. È stato messo in discussione non solo il concetto di Europa, chiaramente il concetto di euro, si è parlato di fallimento di stati, non sono però venuto qui per fare la cronaca delle sventure. pensi a sottolineare un dato, che in questo quadro di minore credibilità, di un'esperienza che può essere straordinaria, specie in un continente che è stato segnato e che è tuttora segnato dallo svolgimento e dalla presenza di fattori bellici, perché non è che nel continente europeo anche in questo momento non ci siano guerre in corso, e non solo e semplicemente guerre etniche. Ebbene, la musica, come la cultura in generale, è uno dei pochi asset che può davvero provare ad unire e a costruire una sommatoria di identità singole di ogni paese che possono diventare identità collettiva. È una sfida importante, perché è la sfida che ti porta a preservare il tuo patrimonio, a promuoverlo, a costruire un patrimonio comune. Nei nostri teatri d'opera noi due non ce ne siamo mai occupati, ci siamo occupati più di Dire Straits o di Woodstock in Europe. Si suona indifferentemente il Fidelio di Beethoven o il Gianni Schicchi di Puccini. Perché non si può e non si deve riuscire a fare altrettanto con la musica contemporanea a livello europeo. Da questo punto di vista mi prendo un pezzettino di libertà. Io rappresento in questo momento il gruppo pubblico della radiofonia in Italia, quindi solo una parte del pubblico radiofonico italiano, ma in ogni Stato europeo esiste un gruppo pubblico radiofonico con consistenze a secondo degli stati differenti, importanti. Noi italiani abbiamo il vizio di citare sistematicamente la BBC. Se vi ricordate, Renzo Arbore in una sua trasmissione di successo dedicata alla radio, uno dei suoi ritornelli era: no, non è la BBC, siamo la Rai TV, cantava. Però ad esempio non tutti sanno che ad esempio in Germania esiste un gruppo pubblico statale centrale e poi tante antenne pubbliche regionali, cioè a livello di Länder. Però fra di noi operatori della radiofonia abbiamo costituito un'associazione importante, perché è oramai rodata da anni di lavoro, che si chiama EBU, e in particolare Euroradio nella sua parte operativa per quello che riguarda la radio, che l'anno scorso su proposta di noi italiani ha lanciato un format per prova, un format che ha funzionato, si chiamava Radio Battle, erano delle sfide fra diversi paesi con la musica dei diversi paesi e il voto degli ascoltatori attraverso il web. Ha vinto la Lettonia, battendo Inghilterra, Italia, Germania, andando in finale con la Serbia, tra le altre. Ma questo è per dire, da parte delle stesse emittenti esiste una richiesta, anche in termini di pubblico, di conoscenza di che cosa succede in quell'Europa di cui forse dal punto di vista politico stiamo assistendo, spero di no, al fallimento. Possiamo costruirla dal punto di vista culturale, dei consumi culturali e spettacolari, grazie al vostro aiuto. Io credo che i miei colleghi dell'EDU e di Euroradio sarebbero felici, e di questo era la sorpresa che avevo preannunciato a Vincenzo, di incontrarci per costruire non semplicemente una piattaforma comune, ma un programma comune per promuovere le vostre attività che sono le nostre attività, perché il fatto stesso di promuovere un concerto, una manifestazione, un giovane artista, un insieme di giovani artisti, quella è la radio, ed è la radio a qualunque latitudine, ed è quello che può portare a costruire quell'identità essenziale che forse ci porterà davvero a fare sì che l'Europa abbia una sua sostanzialità non solo economica. E di questo spero che le stesse autorità della comunità si rendano conto, con provvedimenti operativi e con fondi adeguati, immediatamente, il più velocemente possibile, conto, perché è una delle ricette per il loro stesso buon funzionamento. Grazie e buon lavoro.
Thanks again to Mr. Sinisi, and I have to say sorry to one of our friends here, but this is a problem my computer have like default. Every time I say thanks to all people around me or to all the people who help me, I always forget one. I don't know why. I have to go to Mr. Computer Organizer to understand. So it's with us Karsten Schallmann from Germany, from Live Call Music. So I'm really sorry, and I hope later you can tell me what you want. So please, we go ahead.
Well, after this exciting, interesting contributions, one more question regarding the timeline, because we are really talking about a concrete proposal. We are not kidding. There is the idea in the room to launch special program dedicated to support the music sector by the European Commission. So I would like to ask you a little bit about the timeline, what you're singing, what we have to do next.
Yeah, if you just allow me a few seconds before coming to the timeline, which I will do then within a few seconds, I would just like to follow up on what we said, because the timeline, of course, is, let's say, the practical side of a process that we have started, but the process started because of all these reasons that you just indicated. So we have a Europe of single currency. We don't yet have a Europe of music. Why? Because of this fragmentation of markets that I just mentioned several times. We have a Europe of 28 member states, 24 official languages, 60 regional languages, and I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of dialects. Secondly, we have a framework in which we operate, which is basically in the hands of member states, because Commission can propose, and we will propose something, and I'm coming to your question in a second. But of course, I mean, let's not forget that in this framework we do not operate as in other fields where Europe has more powers, let's say. In this field, really, responsibilities mainly or primarily in the hands of member states. Thirdly, we operate in a framework which is the one that George illustrated, where we have so many interlocutors they don't even fit into one single slide. So if you imagine how to organize a dialogue, a permanent and structured dialogue within these conditions, I mean, it's not very easy. So this is why we would like the sector to kind of consolidate its needs, and we don't really need to have one or the other interlocutor or a single interlocutor, but we really have to at least have some interlocutors that we understand, and possibly a bit fewer than the ones that were in George's slide. So this is why we are starting discussing about concrete ideas for specific actions, so basically funding opportunities specifically reserved and destined to music professionals. And I'm coming to your question. The timeline is quite tight because we would like to start, and there is an agreement at European level, at least from the European Parliament, to go ahead with a preparatory action, an action with some ideas, some first examples, let's say, of what we can support specifically for culture, and this action will start at the earliest in 2017, if there is a formal, let's say, a political agreement. In order to do so, we have to start a process to, let's say, to share with the sector and with the music professionals what the content of this action could be. So we will have a first working group meeting in Brussels on the 10th and 11th of December. So it's very forthcoming, and that would help move forward towards some concrete proposals for this preparatory action, and these proposals should be ready by spring 2016 if we want to gather consensus on this action. And we are also thinking of organizing a European Music Forum, again to structure this dialogue and to make it more regular and more concrete, on the occasion of the Medimex in Cannes in France in June 2016. So this is more or less the framework, but I wanted to explain why this framework and what was the reasons behind. And of course, last but not least, we work, let's say, with the prospect of having something possibly, if everything goes well, for the next EU programming period, which is starting in 2021. So for the time being, till 2020, we have Creative Europe, which is our main funding scheme for cultural and creative sectors, which supports many initiatives, including the other prize that Peter Schmidt mentioned before. But then, on the basis of all these actions that I'm trying to summarize here, we would like to see what, if, and what we could do for the period starting after 2020.
By the way, anybody of you like to participate in this process? Having? Okay, Carsten, go ahead, please.
You see why I forgot you.
I'd just like to add about this wonderful vision you just put on the stage, that we had finished in Germany this first research for the complete thing. So we found out that we have 12 billion turnover in all these branches by having also the suggested guests for the teaching people and for the people and so on. And so I'd like to really straighten out that the next step in Germany will be that we will set up an umbrella organization normally with all these 12, 14, 15 different stakeholders. It's very different people, but the main objective out of that is that we have to learn first that we have to solve our problems within the music industry. And it's not just the live industry, it's also the authors. And by fighting the author rights from the music industry, we realize that we have to come together first and then build an umbrella to go to Europe and discuss the real aims of our work. The real aim is the world of music. So we have to fight the people who are trying to steal our work. So in the end, we have to come together. So let's put up an umbrella. Let's come together under that umbrella, and we should do it in Europe as well.
And is the music sector different from the theater and from the film or literature sector?
Oh, all cultural sectors are in a way different one from each other. Well, of course, there are sectors like music, for example, like audiovisual, film or cinema, which have a more prominent industrial base. Others where operators are smaller, more, let's say, scattered all over Europe, like theaters, like museums and so on and so forth. So one of our challenges indeed is to have a kind of one-fits-all solution, which is almost impossible by definition, for all these sectors within, let's say, our remits. So that's why we have created a program which is, I would say, flexible enough as to support both the culture sector, where operators are generally smaller, and the audiovisual sector through the media program, where operators are generally a little bit bigger or at least more industrial based. But then, of course, since sectors are different, and since we have the chance of having diverse interlocutors from those different sectors, we can learn from one sector to another, and we can kind of export or circulate good practices. There are sectors with which we have been establishing a structural dialogue already for some time, and our sectors like music, where for the reasons that have been mentioned today, this process is only starting now. But of course we will benefit from the experience we have been gathering from the dialogue with other sectors. And if we can just take the example of the audiovisual sector, we have already a more dedicated part of our funding scheme, which is the Medimex program, and dialogue with those operators has a longer tradition. So we will hope that, just by analogy, let's say, we can launch a similar process with the music sector.
Peter, what is your expectations now? You're doing this for many years, and now for the first time it looks like the Commission opens the dialogue, which in previous years was differently. Normally it was always the music sector approaching the European Commission. The European Commission said, "Thank you, sirs," but now this time it's the other way around.
I'm very positive. I mean, the music sector has been going to the Commission for a long time, and in fact asking for a specific program for music because of the enormous possibilities that there are with music in Europe, and all the potential that is not fulfilled at the moment. So that has been for a long time in the framework of European Music Office a question that we put to the Commission, and several things has been done. I mean, the fact that we have the European Border Breakers Awards, the fact that ATAP is a scheme in place, the fact that Live Europe exists, and the fact that Creative Europe is, in my opinion, really a step forward towards a good program for our sector compared to the Creative Culture 2007 program, which was at that point, it was a problem for the music sector to connect with European policies and funds, and that has all changed in a very positive way. And I think these are all developments that are very positive, and I think it's logic that we go hand in hand to develop and fulfill the potential of the European music sector in Europe.
Perfect. George, you are from Greece. Greece is certainly in a weird condition. As a weird condition, what do you expect from this program for the, let's say, music sector in Greece?
Well, what do I expect from Greece? As we were saying, first of all, I do feel European, and except for the financial and social problems we have in Greece, but I'm half French and I'm lucky to travel enough, I see that it's really bad in Greece, but that it's not so well in other countries. I see that, as we said, all of us before, there's a problem with cohesion. So, music is perfect because, first of all, I love music. Music is perfect because it's a cultural tool, that's obvious, and it's a tool for development. You can work in Athens. I can give you an example of the event I had the chance to organize nationally with a budget of less than 50,000 euros. We made 77 band exchange between 36 cities. We had 350,000 media-rich population in Greece and 200,000 spectators. All this in 2 nights from the event we are doing. So if this is not innovation, if this is not social cohesion in the center of the cities, blah, 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 and so on. So I think music could be one of the indirect ways to really enhance the European perspective, and as Vincenzo was saying before, not only I know it sounds cliche, all of us hear this for decades, we have to do something other than the monetary union. Well, it's true, and it's really needed at the moment. So music, and what we're doing at the moment, has, for me, the best options. It's a heart and a feeling that can make me feel better, and a lot of people too, put them together. And it's also a tool for local development and extraversion, you know, to get out of the fear that we are pointed by the finger, and to have some people coming to your country and say, oh, it's a nice event, it's sweet, it's beautiful, and so on and so on.
Greg, you have got UKIP in the UK. Do you think such a program might be able to lower the success of UKIP?
Wow, that's might be the strangest question I've ever been asked.
Well, I consider UKIP also as a bit strange.
Thanks, Tom. Honestly, I have no idea. I would certainly hope so, but equally, you know, it's. I think with music, as much as it shouldn't have any borders, you know, I think it's as much about kind of free speech as any other sort of art form, really. But I think just to sort of go back slightly, I mean, I think to what Carsten was saying, you know, I think one of the sort of most immediate things that really came out this morning was a need for a kind of an umbrella really of kind of associations in different markets. So it seems like there's, you know, in each territory in Europe there are groups of people, whether that's, you know, groups of managers, groups of promoters, groups of agents, groups of venues and festivals that are doing really, really great work in each of their markets. And I think, you know, one of maybe the first things that I think we're looking at here is to actually sort of be able to connect some of those groups up together, to actually bring people together that have that kind of common issue, common kind of goals in mind, but also who may have solutions in their own markets that could work in other markets as well. Something that Alessandro touched on right at the very beginning of this panel was the idea of there being a new process and a new cooperation between the EU and music. When it comes to live music, it's a very old art form. I mean, it's somebody picking up a guitar or a rock or a piece of wood and singing a song to whoever has been going on forever. And I think, you know, the infrastructure really around live music has never been sort of so complicated, and it's become equally, you know, kind of very difficult, you know, very quickly. You know, whether that's with venues, so, you know, rising rents and real estate values, visa issues for artists that are travelling, production costs that are rising, you know, legislation that differs across each market. You know, so I think there's a huge amount of work to be done, and I think that the initiative, certainly with what we were talking about this morning, is a really very positive step, and it's a step at a time that I think has never been more important as well.
Well, work, that's an interesting keyword. Which leads me directly on to Vincenzo, who knows a lot to say about work. Let's face it, Vincenzo has been the one who brought us all together. Now, like, as we are more or less coming now to an end of this conversation, I would like to ask, of course, Vincenzo to sum up.
That's not so correct. I think someone will stay in the back. I don't know who right now, but I have to be the front man. That's okay. It's my responsibility or whatever. So I have nothing to say.
Okay, now I just have to tell.
Big emotion. You make me confused with this question. So the only thing I have to say, if no one want to speak. It's already exciting, you know. We are in the end. I have to finish.
Yes, if you don't mind. If there's no questions from the audience.
Questions? No questions? Audrey, no questions?
Hi, I was saying I can relate to it, something you guys might have talked about, or it doesn't have to do with this, but what about the language barrier? Isn't that a huge thing to put people together, to listen to the same music, but each one of us speaks a different language?
Now, let me say like this, you know, we have as the European Union, or better say as the European Commission, plenty of support programs for almost every kind of industry sector. There could be financial industry, could be farming industry, but also insurance or whatsoever. So the language barrier is not so much a big issue. It's rather, you know, like that we would like to develop a program that is able to support the circulation of artists. And then, of course, you know, if an artist sings in Italian language, English, or I don't know what, then
we are listening music.
I would also like Taryn to complete you and to say that, except for the music itself, one of the main barriers of the language is not between Italian, Spanish, French, or Greek. It's in their own languages, the cross-disciplinary problem of understanding. When you have somebody from Coca-Cola who speaks to somebody who's an artist, with somebody who's the region, and somebody who's the promoter, that's a very big problem of language too. And that's another problem of the music sector we have to really try to focus on.
Does it answer your question? More or less.
Yes and no. I mean, I'm pretty sure a song from a Greek artist in Greek is going to speak to a Greek person in a way that is not going to speak to me. I'm saying this because I play in a Greek band in New York, so I've been through this process. I enjoy playing with them, but the person who writes the song has to explain me what the song is about so I can perform the way that it's proper for the song. If it's a love song, I'm not going to play it in a certain way. If it's an anger song, I'm not going to play it in a certain way. But I need that explanation because it doesn't come through the lyrics to me, if that makes any sense.
Well, you have also instrumental songs, you know, like...
Absolutely,
you
but...
have EDM, dance music, which is so popular now.
Sure.
And it is more or less just
what do people listen to on the radio? Most people. Are we talking about that, or...?
No, we're talking about, like, developing a support program for the music sector. Could be you, could be a record company, could be a live music company, whoever.
And I would say the diversity of languages is also a positive point, which is an exception. And I mean, a lot of artists sing in English, but it's also interesting to hear artists singing in Italian or in Spanish. And I think for audiences, it's nice, and it's for some people it's exotic. I mean, people listen to African music. They cannot understand the words, but the music is appealing, and you don't have in the current day and age in music. I would say it's not definitely necessary to understand all lyrics. Look at popularity of African music and things like that. So I don't think it's a real barrier or handicap. I think it's a positive thing, the diversity of languages, also in music.
Currently the biggest obstacle I see, or better said I hear, is this jazz orchestra which is blowing us away. God. So, I don't know, if there's any questions left, otherwise I would very, very much thank you, first of all, Vincenzo, for getting us all here.
And it was very nice until now, but I think the problems start from now. And you know, I have a friend of mine in St. Petersburg explained to me in the main square of St. Petersburg the philosophy of a Georgian communist who said, if you have a problem, make this problem go to another one. So I don't want that this problem, our problems, come to the Digicultura, but I want to give to them our paper in which we started to work today, and I want to invite all of you to work from tomorrow on this project. Thank you very much to all the Digicultura, Mr. Sinisi.
I hope this is also part of the solution, it's not only the problem. Because if we don't start, I mean, sharing ideas for possible solutions or sharing ideas of how to move forward for the next few years, then I mean, we will not really do something for the benefit of the sector. Now, personally, I do agree with the fact that it was a very positive start. I would just maybe not draw conclusions because it's a start, it's not a conclusion of a process, but I would just say, maybe also partially in response to you, that yes, indeed, language can be a barrier. We have 24 official languages in Europe, 60 regional languages, dialects, whatever. But language, in my own opinion, is also something that it's an emotion that goes beyond the full understanding of lyrics. And secondly, it has been used by many people to understand or learn a new language. So I think, especially in a country like Italy, which I don't fully understand or I don't fully know, although I lived here for a number of years, but I think there are people who learn English and maybe also French thanks to music. Secondly, on a more institutional basis, yes, we have indeed some programs like activities that help fill the gap in linguistic terms. We are a European Union which is based on cultural and linguistic diversity, and this is a richness, but of course in our case it's sometimes perceived as a barrier, but there are some instruments that can help fill the gap. And by the way, we have the same issue for the book sector. So just to go back at the very beginning of our discussion when we said that we are dealing with different sectors and we try to, you know, share experiences from that point of view, we also are facing a situation where the book sector is very fragmented. It's, I would say, similar to the music market, where linguistic issues, barriers, you can call them whatever you want, prevent from having a real European readership, if you can call it like that. So again, we are, for example, supporting the translation of books from the European language into another one, and we would like to do something different, of course, for the cultural and linguistic diversity in the field of music. What is important, and that is really the second and last message I would like to pass on, is that we have credible and solid interlocutors to talk with. I think today we have the proof that this is possible, and that really we have a sector to talk to, and not, you know, several sometimes even conflicting interests. I think once we will learn the role of the different actors in the European scene, let's say, we'll be able to really start fruitful dialogue. We are not starting from scratch. I mean, some colleagues and friends mentioned some initiatives and projects that we already support, but then, and I'll stop here, we should really kind of have a vision, a common and shared vision of where the sector is going for the next few years and where Europe can bring something. And I think talking together with all the linguistic barriers that we are aware of can really help. And then we will, of course, also, let's say, pass on these messages to our European and domestic policymakers. So thank you very much indeed for this very, very helpful initiative, and yes, this is the first of a series. Thank you very much.